want $1 million, we kill your son.
We want it now, or your son dies.
You never pay the bad guys what they ask when they ask for it, because they're going to say,
Oh, you misunderstood. That is a down payment.
What was the key to being the #1 FBI hostage negotiator in the world?
Wow. Serendipity.
You've done hostage negotiations. How many have you done total over your career?
Ballpark number of 150. I did stuff in Mexico, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia.
What was the #1 hostage negotiation scenario?
Chase Manhattan Bank robbery with hostages.
Gunmen burst into the Chase Manhattan Bank in Park Slope this morning, and ever since, negotiators have been trying to get them to give up.
We were being manipulated. Bad guy was constantly hanging up the phone on us abruptly. But I realized that in order for us to regain control of this negotiation, we have to end every call. And we slowly start taking control from this really manipulative guy who doesn't know how we're doing it. We ended up applying this in a number of other critical negotiations. Control the end.
Chris Voss.
Chris Voss.
Chris Voss is a former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator turned world-renowned negotiation expert.
He's the founder of the Black Swan Group and the best-selling author of the book Never Split the Difference, where he teaches powerful communication and negotiation strategies that help people succeed in business and everyday life.
Why do you think 5 million people plus have read Never Split the Difference?
It's a great roadmap for navigating emotion.
And I think most people struggle, men and women, with managing those emotions.
Yes, the 3 magic mindsets to overcome the survival wiring of negativity are curiosity, playfulness, and
I love that. I've never heard that before.
because you're 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind, and it's contagious. Salespeople are 37% more effective. Positive frame of mind. The real control in any negotiation is. Hi, I'm Chris Voss, author of Never Split the Difference, and I'm one of the passionate few.
Thank you so much for being on the show today, Mr. Chris Voss.
Pleasure's mine, man. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely, boss. So let's talk a little bit about your story. You know, a lot of people know what you've done in the FBI online. You know, people have seen your master class. A lot of people have heard a lot of the psychology behind what you've done, and it's absolutely incredible. But before you became this, you know, heavy-hitting FBI negotiator, take us back. Where did you grow up, and where did this whole journey begin for you? I believe you grew up in Iowa back in the day.
Small town Iowa, about 7,000 people, son of a blue-collar entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional family, mom, dad, 4 kids, 1 older sister, 2 younger. My dad, very practical, hardworking, extremely honest, extremely hardworking guy, pretty direct. He figured if you put a roof over your head, you need to earn your room and board as soon as you get up, walk around.
Mm-hmm.
So grew up, you got an allowance, but he did things like my job was always take out the trash.
Mm-hmm.
A guy's supposed to, boys, traditional thoughts, a man should be handling the garbage. Women could do other stuff, but dirty jobs,
Yeah.
guys got to take out the trash. And I grew up around that. And then my father had his own business, independent entrepreneur. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Always wanted to have my own business.
Mm.
So I knew that after I finished government service, I would want a business of my own. But he was a very can-do, figure-it-out guy. He'd give you a list of stuff to get done. And it was kind of up to you to figure it out. My son also ended up working for my dad a lot, his grandfather. We used to joke that the hard thing about working for a guy who would never ask you to do something he wouldn't do himself, if nothing was beneath him, then be prepared to roll up your sleeves. Yeah. Like we had horses. You get out there and you got to shovel horse manure. You got to clean the barn. He would do that if it needed to get done. He had a gas station. If the toilets in the gas station are jacked, screwed up, and somebody's got to get in there and clean them out and fix them, if he would do that, and he would, like, you better not have a complaint. There's no job. If it needs to be done, you got to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he decides he wants a larger garage in the backyard. I'm about 11 at the time.
You got to build it?
Well, we had to tear the old one down.
Yeah.
My older sister, and I, she's about 2 years older than me, he handed us hammers and crowbars, and so go out in the backyard, tear this thing down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 11 years old. You can tear most of it down, and then it had a foundation, it had to be broken up. The foundation was too thick for the hammers that he got us, and so my dad goes out and he rents a jackhammer, and he hands me the jackhammer and says, "Take the jackhammer to this thing and bust it up." I'm 11 years old.
Yeah.
I'm running this jackhammer. these guys, is a guy that worked for him, his helper is his right-hand blue collar. He goes, well, that'll make a man out of you. And so then I can't break up the whole foundation with the jackhammer. And I could tell he's kind of just, well, I gotta get an adult in here. So he hires a contractor to come, and he figures the contractor is going to take the jackhammer and bust up the concrete. And this guy goes like, no, this requires a backhoe. And I'm kind of looking at my dad going like, look, an adult says this takes a backhoe, and you have me out here with a jackhammer? Like, come on.
Yeah.
But that was my father. Work hard, figure it out, get stuff done.
Yeah.
And so I think
that laid the foundation for
the foundation of figuring it out, and the other thing, just because it's 5 o'clock, just because the sun went down, if the job isn't done, it ain't done.
That's right.
And so the other joke between my son and I were the two mottos of the Voss family was, number one, how hard could it be? Mm-hmm. Which is very similar to Redneck's famous last words, hey, watch this.
Yeah.
And then the other one is anything worth doing is worth doing in the dark, because we worked on so much stuff well after sundown because the job wasn't done.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes. So that's really what I grew up in.
And then how law enforcement did that come into play? Like, what made you go into there before?
Well,
FBI?
I'm about 16 years old, and this buddy of mine and we go and see a movie called The Super Cops. And it's based on real-life story of two New York City cops who were wildly innovative, did a great job. I didn't realize that at the time they were complete mavericks, which means they didn't really pay attention to what the bureaucrats told them to do. Mm-hmm. They were focusing on getting the job done. They were a couple of white guys working one of the toughest black neighborhoods in New York City. Yeah. At the time, Bed-Stuy was a very bad area. Not the worst, there were worse neighborhoods, but Bed-Stuy was pretty tough. Mm-hmm. And what I loved about it, the fact, like, the community just made of good people. It doesn't matter what community it is. And they appreciated cops that did a great job, who were not abusive, were dedicated. These guys were creative and dedicated, and they locked up bad guys, and they treated people with respect, and the community loved them. And I was really impressed with how creative these guys were and how much fun they had and how much good they did on a good mission. So it's about that time of my life I decided to be a cop. My high school buddy, Dave, we were both inspired simultaneously. We both ended up being cops. Dave wasn't really built for it. Mm-hmm. Hard thing about being a cop is you see some pretty tough stuff. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever go into the military or want to go in the military at all?
I thought about the military. I wasn't willing to commit for 2 to 4 years of my life, just commit to it, which I always sort of wondered if it was a mistake, because my era of the FBI, a lot of guys that were first office with me, many of them had Vietnam experience. And these guys had a seasoning I didn't have.
Right.
I felt I got a lot of seasoning as a cop. There are a lot of agents with no prior law enforcement experience. You know, if you went to law school and then became an agent, you don't have any real street experience.
Right.
Or, whatever they did. Like, I felt I had far more street experience than they did. Mm-hmm. But when I ran across the military vets with combat experience, if it doesn't break you, and it breaks a lot of people, but the guys that come out of there not broken, they got a real savvy to them. Mm-hmm. And so I always kind of wondered, I felt like, I don't question any part of my journey, but I definitely felt those guys had more savvy than I did when I was an agent. But anyway, I see this movie. I ended up as a cop in Kansas City, KCMO. Mm-hmm. Great town, great
police department. How old are you when you got into law enforcement, though?
I graduated college. I had just turned 23. Mm-hmm. Fresh out of college, still wet behind the ears. Didn't really know what I was getting into. I was inspired by the super cops. Originally, the city I had my eyes on was San Francisco. Mm-hmm. My family took a trip to San Francisco when I was 18, and I thought the city was amazing. Mm-hmm. By the time I'm getting out of college, California's got a rollback in property taxes, and I can't remember what it was called, Proposition 19, Proposition 13, something. Mm-hmm. But I realized that was going to gut city budgets. If that's what fuels property taxes, or what fuels the city budgets, if they're gutting the budgets, they're probably not going to hire from out of state. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, I probably got no shot at San Francisco. So I'll stay in the area, look around. Everybody raved about Kansas City. Great town. Raved about it for good reason.
Yeah,
it is
I
a
love KC. Yeah,
really good town. Yeah. Well-run police department, good city government, charming town. So I go down and I get on the police department and didn't know what I was getting into. It was a great place. And being there at about 2 years, my father finally caught on that I was going to do a full law enforcement career. He had just paid for a college degree. My dad's deal with his kids were, I'll fund you for 4 years of college, state school, in-state, no private schools, no out-of-state schools. Pick a state school. My older sister went to Iowa State, so I followed her there. You don't get a degree in 4 years, that's your problem. But 4 years is on me. So I go get a college degree, and then I get a job that only requires a high school diploma.
So he's not happy.
If I was my father, I would have asked for my money back. I was like, all right, you threw that away. Fine, you owe me.
Yeah.
But so he encouraged me to look federal because he assumed that it was a step up, potentially more prestigious, potentially more challenging. You could argue that either way. When I was in New York City, I worked with New York NYPD cops, phenomenal people, phenomenal cops, great investigators. But he wanted me to look federal. He had a friend who was a Secret Service agent. And I talked to the guy, and he says, Secret Service, I traveled all over the world with Secret Service. Now, I grew up in a small town in Iowa. I hadn't traveled anywhere. Crossing a state line into Illinois was a big deal. I'd seen Canada from a distance.
Right.
And I'm thinking, like, somebody paid you to travel all over the world?
Yeah.
Yeah, baby, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Secret Service wasn't hiring at all. The FBI was at the beginning of a 3-year hiring push where they're hiring a ton of people. I applied at the beginning of the first year of that push. Simultaneously applied for the SWAT team, Kansas City, Missouri. And I'm number one on the list for the SWAT team. And interestingly enough, both the Secret Service and the FBI kind of had a 3-year rule, or the KCPD. To go to the SWAT team, they wanted you to have 3 years experience as a cop before you could go SWAT. FBI, with a 4-year degree, they want you to have at least 3 years of real-life experience. And so I end up number one on the list for the SWAT team, and so the commanders in charge of SWAT say, we'll just go to the colonel in charge of the admin, and he'll waive the 3-year rule for you because you're number one. And the colonel in charge of admin says, no, I wasn't kidding. That 3-year rule is there for a reason. I will not allow the transfer until my anniversary date was going to be Halloween of all days. October 31st. So I got the application in for the FBI, and I'm running through the process. I get serendipity. I get some great coaching, and I listen to that coaching. It's one thing to get coaching, it's another thing to listen to it.
That's right, yeah.
Never take advice from somebody who hasn't been where you're going, which means somebody could love you and not know what they're talking about. You don't listen to that person. It's got to be somebody who knows what they're talking about. So I go to an experienced agent. He gives me some very solid advice, which I follow, which makes all the difference in the world in my application. So the Bureau hires me 2 weeks before I was set to go to the SWAT team.
Holy shit.
If they'd have delayed 2 weeks,
what was the advice
I never would have left.
What was the advice he gave you?
Well, I get it. He's a friend of a friend, senior agent. He says, all right, I'm on the interview panels. So I will probably be disqualified from your panel. So he says, do you follow current events? And I'm like, no. He's like, why not? I said, because the newspaper isn't going to tell me who I'm going to arrest tonight. When I go into the station an hour early. I do a review of whether or not all the people that I'm probably going to run into, I get a pretty good idea who's got warrants and who don't, and where they hang out, if they got a warrant, where I can find them. I'm going to do a review of the stolen cars in the area and see if I can memorize the description. None of that is in the newspaper. Nothing in the newspaper helps me do my job. And the guy says, okay, well, we're going to want you to be up to speed on current events, just so you know that's coming. He says, what do you like to do for entertainment? And I said, I want to make it sound sophisticated. I like escapism movies, like Avengers movies. If they got car chases and explosions, I'm happy. My girlfriend kills me about that all the time. And I go, I like film. So he says, okay, well, what do you like about film? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like it. I go to a movie, I like it. I unplug for 2 hours. He says, you're going to have a better answer than that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I go in for the interview. The 3 guys interviewing me walk in the room. He's in the room. And he looks at me and he says, do you keep up on current events? And I say, as a matter of fact, I do. Here's what I read in the paper. Here are the trends. And I demonstrate that since he told me to keep up on the newspaper and current events, I have since that moment.
Yeah. That changed your life, arguably, in that moment.
I don't realize that I'm recruiting an unofficial mentor because to be a great mentee, you have to do what the guy that is mentoring you tells you to do. Otherwise, you're horrible and you're going to be an embarrassment. If you do what they tell you to do, now they have a stake in your success. They're never going to say that to you. So then he goes on. He says, they ask me some other questions. He goes, what do you like to do in your spare time? I go, I like film. And he goes, well, okay, what do you like about it? Now I got a real answer. I have a full and clear answer. I like escapism entertainment. I love what I do for a living, but I work very hard at it, and I'm very intense about it. So there are times where I just need to unplug completely. And a good escape is a movie. I recharge. 2 hours later, I come out, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. So there were guys in my class that it took them 7 years to get hired at the FBI. I got in 10 months. Wow. They were shocked. One guy in my class said, I've been trying to get in for 7 years.
How old were you when you started working for the FBI?
They hired me just before my 25th birthday.
Hey guys, we'll get back to the show in a sec, but first, quick question. How many different tools are you paying for just to run your business day to day? A CRM, email marketing, funnels, calendars, automations, AI tools, that list adds up fast. And that's why I'm super excited to thank today's sponsor, High Level, for sponsoring this episode. Because right now, you can try the entire platform free for 30 days using the link below and find out for yourself. High Level brings the tools you need to market, sell, follow up, automate, and manage your customers into one platform. And they're taking it even further with AI. With AI Studio, you can turn an idea into websites, funnels, forms, and booking experiences. And with their new Super Agents feature, you can even create AI teammates that actually take action inside of your business. It's about spending less time jumping between platforms and more time focused on growth. So if you want your systems working harder for you today, click the link below and try High Level free for 30 days now. Thanks again to High Level for sponsoring the show. And now let's get back to the episode.
Do you go straight to the hostage negotiation, high stakes stuff, or how did that accidentally come your way?
That's a long way. But to cap the story, after I get in, you can pull your file and look at it at any time. Like after you've been in for a year, after you retire, I'm still probably going to pull my file. But I wanted to see in my investigation, like, how did I get in so much faster than everybody else did? My interview scores from that interview that guy sat in on were embarrassingly high. And the only explanation I can have for that is he coached me and he rewarded me with ridiculously high scores. Had I not followed his advice, I'm sure that my scores would have been so low it tanked me. Your unofficial mentors are going to watch to see if you did what they told you to do. Mm-hmm. And there have been several breaks in my life where I was smart enough to go to the person to ask them what to do. What they told me to do made no sense to me. Mm-hmm. I did it anyway. And they cleared obstacles for me consequently like you would not believe. No commitment on anybody's part. So in the Bureau, there were a lot of guys, they called them advice shoppers. New agent is on a squad. He starts asking around what you should do. He keeps asking until somebody tells him what he always wanted to do. He's not really going to change his behavior.
He's just looking for validation.
He's looking for validation. And people that are shopping for advice, you get to know who they are really quickly, and they come up to you and you go like, nah, I don't know what to tell you. I got no experience with that, because the guy's not going to listen anyway. But the guys that listen and then follow advice, now if they fail, the failure's on you too. So you will go clear the way for them without them asking, without them even knowing, because you're on the line along with them. Or if there's an opportunity that they're thinking about who to give to, who are they going to give it to other than the person that followed their advice last time around? Because you're never going to embarrass them, because they're doing what you told them to do. There have been some real critical moments in my career. It's how I got on the negotiation team. That's how I actually got some consulting gigs in Washington, D.C. People told me to do stuff that made no sense to me, but I knew they were in a position to know what they were talking about. And so I'm like, all right, clearly they've been where I want. They are where I want to be. They can give direction because they're there. All right, I'll give it a roll. They have to be where you want to be. Like my mom gave me a lot of advice about life, and she was dead on.
Yeah.
But specifics on how to get ahead on anything, I didn't really ask. How do you get ahead how do I join the FBI? She'd probably, tell the truth.
Yeah.
She would never have told me to read the newspaper and why. So the just because you can trust somebody doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. It's two things.
Yeah, the discernment to understand
And
the intention.
do they know? Do they actually? Are they well intentioned? Your mom, she loves you. And I told this guy that was driving a Lyft one time, my mom says I should be a voiceover artist. He had this great booming voice. And I said, has your mother ever worked in a voiceover industry? He's like, no. And I said, all right, this is really going to piss you off. Your mother loves you. She doesn't know what she's talking about. So if you want to do it, understand, you got to find somebody in the industry to tell you how to do it. She might be right that you could be good at it, but she sees all this talent in you. She's possibility, but she doesn't see the avenue because she hasn't been there. She didn't work in the industry. She loves you. She means well. She's not against you. But unless they've seen it, how it is done, and even more that they did it, because it's one thing to watch somebody do something, and it's another thing to do it. Always looks easier when you're seeing somebody else do it.
And when they've walked the path, they can tell you the obstacles, the challenges. They can anticipate the road ahead for you.
I can tell you how disheartening it could be when you're sitting all by yourself next to on your bed late at night going, what did I do?
Right.
And they say, that moment's coming.
Right.
And then when you see that they became successful after that moment, then when you're sitting at the edge of your bed late at night going, what the fuck did I do to myself? Like, all right, that's part of the journey.
And then switching gears, how did you, like the process of you getting on the negotiation team come about?
So since I was slated to go to SWAT with the PD, as soon as I got to Pittsburgh, the head of the SWAT team in Pittsburgh, after I'd been there for a couple months, he took me under his wing. And he knew that I had street experience and I could be a functioning member of the SWAT team on the spot. So he put me on the SWAT team. And then towards the end I was there for 2 years, and towards the end of the 2 years, he sends me to SWAT training. While I'm under orders to New York, he's getting ready to finally get a member of his team through the 2-week SWAT school at Quantico, and I'm getting ready to leave. So I'm an asset that he's training.
Right.
But he was another mentor that I did what he told me to do. He knew what he was talking about. I did what he told me to do. So I'm on a SWAT team in Pittsburgh. We go out on a couple of operations. We only went out twice. We raided as an operation. We raided one motorcycle gang clubhouse, and it was another drug deal that we were supposed to go out. It was supposed to go down about 11 o'clock at night. It ended up going down about 7 o'clock the next morning. These things happen. You'd be shocked to hear that drug dealers are often late.
That's funny.
They don't always show up on time.
Yeah.
They get caught up. They're partying in a bar. They forget,
Yeah. So you guys are just on standby, ready to knock 'em.
We're hanging out by this, outside this hotel where the deal was supposed to go down overnight.
Yeah.
And they finally showed up the next morning. And we held a little surprise party for them.
It's so funny to me too, because a lot of this inspiration started from the 16-year-old you who was watching movies of this shit.
Yeah.
And then now you're like living it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Of dreamers who just turn into reality.
Yeah, you just go after it because you don't know any better, right?
That's right.
Fresh eyes.
Ignorance is bliss.
And the fresh eyes thing, and because you don't know any better, it'll take you so far because then what could go wrong?
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't
and the
stop you as
enthusiasm
much.
is driving you.
Enthusiasm is there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get sent to New York as expected, and there are no cost of living at the time in the FBI. So an agent in New York got paid the exact same amount of money as an agent in Pittsburgh because I was in Pittsburgh first office, but housing was 3 times more expensive in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a $50,000 townhouse at the time in Pittsburgh, and the same townhouse in New York City at the time was $150,000. But I'm not getting paid any more money.
Mm-hmm.
So the FBI's version of the Navy SEALs is the hostage rescue team. They got a lot of former SEALs, a lot of former Delta operators on that team. And so I'm like, all right, I got enough time in I could try out for HRT. I put in an application to try out down at Quantico, lower cost of living, all sorts of things better off than, at the time, the difficulty of being in New York. I go down, I'm not physically ready. I had not adopted a lifestyle of fitness. I mean, you have to live and breathe fitness day in and day out, and you have to have been breathing it for a couple years to make one of those teams. You don't show up down there and get in shape while you're there, and you don't get in shape 3 months ahead of time. Mm-hmm. You got to work your tail off for at least a year. I go down and I find that out the hard way. I finished next to last in a tryout. But on comparisons, I knew that if I got myself in shape, I could get to those guys' level. And there was a few things that we did an underwater pool swim. I've always been a good swimmer. I held my breath and swam underwater farther than anybody else did. So I knew I could compete. Turn around, and I hurt my knee again. I torn my knee up in college because I want to study martial arts because, I fancy myself, a lot of guys bigger than me on the street. I want to be able to handle myself with anybody. I had ligament reconstruction surgery while I was in college. Try out for HRT, don't make it. I turned down, I doubled down on my training, and I give my knee another bad shot while I'm training, and go and get another reconstructive knee surgery. But then after the second one, I'm like, all right, there's only so many times they're going to be able to put my knee back together under high stress. Being special forces is like being a professional athlete, and you're going to stay at it till your body breaks down. And if you're lucky enough that it doesn't break down, the longer you last. You're Michael Jordan. You play into your 40s. Was it Kid Rose that played for the Bulls, point guard?
Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose. Yeah. He's getting hurt all the time. One of the most talented guys in the NBA, but couldn't stay healthy. Mm-hmm. That's luck. So I do the second knee construction. I'm like, all right, so who goes out with SWAT? Negotiators. I like crisis response. You have to decide. The risks and costs of comfortable inaction are not allowed in a crisis. Somebody's got to make a decision to do something.
But was the extremity of the pressure what made it so appealing to you?
Well, I hate indecision.
Right.
There are 3 negotiator types: assertive, analyst, accommodator, fight, flight, make friends. I'm a natural born assertive, and we believe time is money. In the private sector, who would be the poster children for those types? Elon Musk is an analyst. Jeff Bezos is an assertive. Richard Branson is an accommodator.
And for those listening, what would be an example of each of them defined?
First of all, you can get to the top of the world as any of the 3 types as soon as you understand what you have to complement your skills with. Like Branson is extremely optimistic, extremely relationship oriented. I don't know, you can find a picture of him where he's not smiling.
True.
And I was just at an event on Necker Island, Branson's Island, with a group called Maverick 1000, and he shows, and he's a wonderful host. Like, he's very careful. He's there a lot. He's also very careful about how he interacts. He always makes you feel warm and welcome. But enough people come through there. While he's a great host, he's also cautious about making you feel like you're best friends, because he had Nelson Mandela on his island. You know, he's not coming to my house for dinner.
Yeah.
But we get there, and he greets the boat when we roll up. Like, friendly relationship, optimistic. That's the accommodator. Focusing primarily on optimism, on hope. Branson, over the years, learned to be very analytical. For example, on his masterclass, every line of business has a different corporation to protect them all from each other. That's a very analytical approach. The analyst, natural born Elon Musk. Like, Elon don't say nothing in interviews. You ask Elon a question, you better be prepared to sit there in silence for 42 seconds before he answers.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And yeah, you've seen that. You know, he's very
even
thoughtful.
When he does answer, it's like it's very hard to connect, and he's talking abstractly.
Hard to connect, and then you know, analysts. A natural born analyst sticks to their default demeanor, seem cold and distant. Now, they're not cold and distant. Now, when you read Isaacson's book on Musk, it's clear he cares about his family. It's clear he cares deeply about people in general. It just doesn't come off in how he handles himself. So there's a distinction. And then every now and then, like, you know, when Disney's giving him a hard time over pulling their advertising dollars off of X a number of years ago, and he feels being extorted, he's in the middle of an interview with Andrew Ross Sorkin, and he goes, "Fuck Bob Eisner."
Yeah, I saw that.
Andrew Ross Sorkin is sitting there going like, "Oh, I didn't want that. Doesn't help. Please don't say that."
Yeah,
you know?
and then he said it again.
Yeah, he said it again. But that's the analytical guy.
Yeah.
You know, he challenged Musk. Tesla's not putting out enough cars. They put up a tent. He sleeps on the production floor. He doesn't leave the production floor for days. Tell him, you know, he's going to crack that code. Classic example of, and each one of these guys are successful space entrepreneurs too, which is why I mention all of them. All of them have put spacecraft in outer space. Bezos, the assertive. You go to work for Bezos, he's definitely a time is money guy. And one of the things that I've adopted from his thinking is do as you're told until you figure out a better way. And I expect you to figure out a better way. Now, different is not better. Just because you like doing it differently, I'll fire you for that because you're not doing as you're told. But if you do it enough and you do it more than me, I expect you to figure out a better way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I love that. I mean, I actually tell the people that work for me, like, the first thing I need you to do is follow directions, because we have a system, we got a plan. You got to show me you could follow directions. But if you do this enough times, you're going to get smarter at it and better at it than I am.
Yeah, you'll find efficiencies, ideas.
I want you to do it better. I don't want you doing it different. I want you to do it better, and you have it in you. And I was definitely inspired by that from Bezos. Now, I've talked to people that have worked at Amazon. Amazon, by the way, I know that they're making Never Split the Difference. They give it to their salespeople and expect them to read it.
That's awesome.
I've gotten that directly from a bunch of people. Do you know that AWS, all the Amazon people are handed your book? And so anybody listening to this podcast, if you haven't read my book, you're dealing with someone who has.
Very true. Why do you think 5 million people plus have read Never Split the Difference? What is it about the book you think resonates with so many people?
It's two things. First of which is, despite what the media tells us, the book is about collaborating with people. The media wants us to believe that we're all against each other, and they fear farm, they hate farm, they anxiety farm. I heard it on Lex's podcast, the phrase for what the media does to us. Drama farming.
Especially nowadays.
nowadays.
It's even worse than before. Yeah.
You know, they put somebody from the far left up arguing with somebody from the far right. They want us to believe that represents.
Yeah.
But the majority of people on Earth want to collaborate. The book sells well in China.
Mm-hmm.
It's sold in 40 countries and at least that many languages. Humans want to collaborate. So that's the first reason. We are more collaborative than the media wants us to believe. And the book is about collaborating with people, not against them. Secondly, it's a great roadmap, really, for navigating emotions. And Tal Raz, a co-writer, brilliant writer. Tal is the best business book writer alive. I was lucky to get him to collaborate on the book. Everything he touches is a New York Times or Wall Street Journal bestseller. No other business writer has his track record. We talk about it occasionally, and he said one of his buddies, a guy, came to him and said, "You guys finally gave men permission to talk about emotions." So different people take different things away, but the freedom to discuss emotions, which are always the elephant in the room, but historically, the masculine approach has been that emotions are bad.
Right.
And no, they're not. They're
human.
They're part of being human, period.
That's right.
And I think that's another reason the book is done well.
And I think most people struggle, men and women, with managing those emotions,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Especially in new situations, especially in fight or flight and relationships and business, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I want to switch gears and talk about that. But I do want to talk about, the actual process of you mentioned, just to backtrack, SWAT, and then, you having those injuries. So then going into it, I just want to get into where's the moment where you go, oh shit, I'm in, I might be good at this as a hostage negotiator.
Before I became a negotiator. This was another one of those times when somebody gave me advice who knew what they were talking about that made no sense to me.
Recurring theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm coachable. So I'm on a terrorist task force in New York City. At the time, there were just 3 terrorism squads. I'd been on surveillance, which meant I spent a lot of time on the street. And then I'm an investigator inside. And on one of the international squads, the head of the negotiation team, a woman named Amy Bondero, is running the team. And I go over and I go, "Hey, I'm Chris Voss." And she kind of looks at me over her glasses. She goes, "Yeah, I know who you are." And I go, "Hey, I want to be on a hostage negotiation team."
Yeah. How old are you at this time?
Oh, wow. I'm probably got trained in 90. Yeah, I'm just early 30s.
Okay.
If I'm doing the math right. Last century. It's hard to remember. So long ago.
Time flies.
Yeah,
Time flies.
yeah. So she kind of goes, she says, "Look, everybody wants to be a hostage negotiator. Everybody. Sounds easy. They want the T-shirt." She said, "I know you're a cop." She really didn't know who I was. She said, "I know you're a cop, Kansas City. We're on the negotiation team there." I'm like, "No." She said, "You got a degree in psychology." I'm like, "No." She said, "You got any experience in counseling? Anything at all that relates to this?" I'm like, "No." She says, "I can't use you. Stop bothering me." And I'm like, wait, what? I'm, ta-da, here I am, Chris Voss. And she said, "I don't care." I go, "Look, there's got to be something I could do." She says, "There is. Go volunteer on a suicide hotline. Now, until you've done that, stop bothering me." So I'm like, "All right."
Deal.
And I go, I go, back then, the great source of intel, this is last century, before the internet,
Yeah.
which we had clocks, we had running water, we had electricity.
Yeah.
We dialed up phones, and it was crazy. But the great source of intel, the first source of intel for an investigator is always the phone book. I had learned that a couple years earlier from another investigator. He says, "See this thing right here?" I go, "Yeah, it's a phone book." He says, "That's your first source of intelligence.
Why
Go
is
there
that?
first." Because there a collection of names, addresses, and phone numbers.
Yeah.
And there's a pretty good chance somebody you're looking for is in a phone book.
Right.
So, and if you're looking for them and they are, and you didn't check the phone book, then you're going to look like an idiot because you didn't. So I look up suicide hotlines. Nothing under suicide. So I'm like, what's another possibility? Help. You want help, you call a hotline. Look up help. Helpline. Happens to be founded by Norman Vincent Peale. it's
Power of Positive Thinking.
Power of
right?
Positive Thinking.
That's right, the author.
He as would come into my journey later in life and sort of a tangent. It also happened to be the church that Donald Trump's family went to.
Oh wow, very cool.
And the minister at the time, a guy named Arthur Caliandro, great human being. Arthur was God's guy. I learned a lot from him, and flawed as well.
Yeah,
which to me was reassuring because in getting to know him, and I'm like, all right, so you don't got to be perfect. Arthur is this inspirational guy that just makes you feel better about being alive. Arthur ended up, by the time his life was over, he'd been married 3 times.
Oh.
He never cheated on his wives, but he had 3 marriages that came to an end. And I'm like, you can be God's guy and be divorced? Apparently. So anyway, I go volunteer on a hotline, and I'm volunteering for a few months before I report back to Amy.
And what are these people saying on the lines?
That's a crazy thing. The training was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I'm trainable.
Yeah.
And the first thing, and that's why you asked me about that moment.
Yeah. And because I'm curious, for example, for someone listening, what it's like when you go in to that room, you hear that first call, and you're like, oh shit, this is real. Like, this is a real human being.
They prepped you for it.
Mm-hmm.
The first call is supervised.
Do you remember your first call?
Oh yeah.
What was the story?
Well, I'm not at liberty to talk about that one in particular.
Sure.
But what I do remember more about it than anything else was my default tone of voice happened to be the late night FM DJ voice.
Yeah.
So the phone rings and I go, hello, this is Helpline. And then we have the call and I do the stuff. And there's a supervisor right there listening to me. And I get off the phone and he goes, man, your voice is great. That was a great voice. He said, where'd you learn that? I'm like, I don't remember what I did.
Like, I'm just being me.
I had to think back. Maybe it's backed into a corner, falling into my training. But on the training early on, the first thing they tell you is like, no, you're not allowed to be on the phone with anybody for longer than 20 minutes.
Why is that?
And I'm like, 20 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Like again, I'm a Richard Branson fan. He volunteered on a suicide hotline in his very young days in London, and he's got a couple stories where he was on the phone overnight with people. I was familiar with this.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, no, as a matter of fact, if you do this right, it'll take less than 20 minutes. You're going to be surprised at how effective. They didn't have the terminology for it then. They just called that empathy. What it is applied emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, if you do it right, it'll take less than 20 minutes. So I'm like, all right, let's see. And it does.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get people on the phone that seem like totally lost and wrapped around the axle, to use a Southern phrase. And about 20 minutes later, they're in a completely different place, which is your job to let them feel like they guided themselves to a great place. Because if they feel you guided them, then when you get off the phone, they're lost.
Hey guys, we'll get back to the video in a sec. But first, quick question for you business owners and high achievers watching. When you're traveling around the country for deals, scaling teams, or managing stress, are you actually flying with a team that makes your life easier? Or are you dealing with scheduling headaches, surprise maintenance bills, and too many moving parts behind the scenes? Well, that's why today's sponsor, Haven Aviation Services Group, exists. Think of them as the safe haven of the sky. Haven is a vertically integrated aviation company, meaning they handle everything under one roof. From your private jet charters, aircraft management, brokerage, maintenance, avionics, and premium grade services at their FBO. For aircraft owners especially, this is the absolute real best value. Instead of juggling pilots, insurance, scheduling, maintenance, hangars, legal docs, Haven manages it all in one place. No guessing, no surprises, and no wondering why something suddenly costs 6 figures. Their entire focus is transparency, safety, and long-term planning. So you actually trust the people managing your aircraft and don't have to stress about it at all. So if you want an aviation partner that operates with the same discipline and results-driven mindset we talk about on the show, hit the link in the description to connect with Haven Aviation Services Group. Big thanks to Haven ASG for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get back to the show.
Can you give an example of how you'd like align that? Like say someone was coming to an event or whatever it is, or just share and then you'd align with them. Like, what's your process like in a practical way?
Well, so I'll give an example from the hotline, and then I'll give a practical example of how I apply it in real life.
Sure.
Guy calls in a hotline one night. He goes, "Hey, I just need your I need your help putting a lid on this day. I got to put a lid on this day. I just need your help putting a lid on this day." So you're taught to sort of observe the emotion that they have, and they called it reflective listening back then, which is still a terminology that's used today. But now to really explain it in concise terms, it's a label.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. And then you make a verbal observation of the emotion. So the guy sounded frantic to me, and you observe a negative emotion. And you say, sound frantic. Like if I'm trying to check into the airport counter and the person behind the counter is purposely not looking at me so that I can't walk up until they do look up. You know, we've all been there. There's an airline counter. There's 4 people behind the screens, all checking people in, and they're all keeping their eyes down so you don't approach.
Mm-hmm.
They're having a tough day. When that happens, when I walk up to that person, I go, tough day?
Yeah.
Now, you know, I'm standing back there thinking like, it's your job to take care of me. I'm standing in line. I paid a lot of money for this ticket. Do your job. Look up, because I'm trying to make a flight. That's what's going on in my head.
Right.
I could say, oh, aren't you in customer service? Isn't your job customer service? You know, none of that helps. Observe what you see.
And meet them where they're at.
That's another way of looking at it. So the guy, when I said to this guy on the phone, you sound frantic, his voice immediately comes down.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know it at the time. It's critical to start dissipating negative emotions first. In the sequence, always start with the negatives. Even if they're not there, you can take a swag. You know what a swag is?
No.
Scientific wild-ass guess.
Okay.
You take a swag based on circumstances and what you see.
Yeah.
Guy comes down. So then he starts telling me he's battling paranoia, and he's getting ready to go on a car trip the following day with his family. And his family's working really hard to help him beat paranoia. And he knows that the car trip's going to be a long car trip, and he's going to be paranoid tomorrow afternoon. He's going to become a basket case. And so he's turned himself into a basket case tonight, thinking about tomorrow. But he outlines in such detail how hard his family's working with him. And I remember telling a guy about my family once, and inadvertently that guy says to me, sounds like your family's really close. And at the moment, like, it drew everything together. And I didn't know it at the time, but I'm getting this phenomenal hit of oxytocin, this great neurochemical, and serotonin, which is the feeling of being understood, and there's a calming, soothing effect. And I can remember just feeling that from that label that this guy did inadvertently. So this guy's saying to me on the phone about his family, so I go, it sounds like your family's really close. And the strength that came into his voice when I made that observation, because it was implied by everything that he said. I'm labeling a dynamic that he described. I'm just feeding it back to him. And so he says, yeah, we are close. Now he's labeling to me, telling me all the stuff he'd done to beat paranoia. And so he sounded determined. And I say to him, you sound determined. And he goes, yeah, I am. Thanks. I'm going to go on that car trip tomorrow. I'll be fine. That took about 4 minutes, which is 3 labels in an important succession of labeling the negative first, because that clears the head. We're roughly 75% negative in our brain. Default wiring, our survival mindset is negative.
Why is that? Survival?
It was
primitive.
The caveman, once bitten by a snake who's scared of ropes. The negative stuff in prehistoric times would kill us. Positive stuff, missing out on that, doesn't kill you. You live to see the sunrise, because
so it's more consequential to miss the negatives.
The negatives, missing the negatives will kill you.
Yeah.
in prehistoric days. So the ones that survived were the ones that overreacted to negatives. Once bitten by a snake, you're scared of ropes.
Right. Only the paranoid survive.
Only the paranoid survive. And the optimistic caveman said, yeah, you know, Omar went in that cave yesterday and he never came out. But I'm an optimist, so I'm going in today too.
Fuck it.
That guy had no descendants.
That's right. The world doesn't know his name.
Yeah.
So how does this translate then, for example, you know, as you evolve your career? Because you went on to do hostage negotiations. I mean, how many countries? I mean, probably over a dozen countries.
Every part of the world.
How many have you done total over your career?
I underestimated a ballpark number of 150.
Yeah.
You know, for example, and there was a 1-year period of time in Haiti where we worked over 100 kidnappings in Haiti. So I started adding up everything I did domestically. I did stuff in Mexico. I did stuff in Africa. I did stuff in the Middle East. I did stuff in Southeast Asia. I consulted on sieges all over the world. I was in the middle of everything that was going on in Haiti at the time, revolving door kidnapping. And so I figured, all right, a safe number that I know is going to be low is probably about 150.
And from all of those, what was the number one, like, top hostage negotiation scenario in your entire career? The most intense one that you can share?
Well, for different reasons and different times. First of all, hostage negotiator is successful about 90% of the time. So if you've done it a low number of times or in an environment where people are not getting killed, everything you've done has turned out well. And your skills slip. You get very sloppy as a result because there's no penalty for getting sloppy. So I'd had a huge success in the Philippines, the Jeffrey Burnham, Jeff Schilling case, which is one of the, I do keynote talks now, and I built a lot of the learning points from the Schilling case into the talk. After it was over, Schilling walked away because they let him go. He couldn't admit they let him go, but they let him go. The sociopathic terrorist called the negotiator I was coaching to congratulate him on how effective he was afterwards and pay his respects. And the point of the story is, you know, the application of empathy disarms the other side and they're not mad at you. So even if the deal isn't made, and the deal wasn't made there, you're not only not mad at the guy, you actually kind of respect him and you can't help yourself. You want to reach out, even a sociopath will say, look, dude, I respect you. I deal with you again, which is actually what this guy said to him on the phone. So we got this spectacular success, and very much like a Super Bowl championship team in any sport, as soon as you win the championship, everybody gets a little selfish. I didn't get enough credit last time around. I didn't have enough influence. My role was overlooked. So we get another kidnapping with a different branch of the same terrorists that kicks off about 2 months after the Schilling case is over.
And can you walk us through, like, what a phone call is like for something like that?
On a real kidnapping, the family gets notified. The phone calls are different all the way around. Typically, State Department counterterrorism, which is these are the real doers within the State Department. They're very action-oriented. Most of them are former military if they're in counterterrorism. They stay wired into all the embassies in the world because if things start going really bad in a country, the people that are going to have to move the fastest are counterterrorism in the State Department. The bureaucrats, they're like taking their time. We got to think this through before we call anybody. Counterterrorism guys are not that way. And I develop a very close relationship with counterterrorism. They find out about a kidnapping. Their very next call is usually to me because they know that we're going to have to start deploying resources to contain the communication. The bad guys are going to call somebody in the family. We don't know who in the family they're going to call. They're going to take your phone and they're going to make you unlock your phone. And then they're going to start by punching in MOM because everybody's got mom in their phone. And then they're going to go down the list of your family members to see who answers first. State Department knows, at the time, counterterrorism, that I have hostage negotiators in 56 cities across the country. I've got somebody less than an hour away from every family member that's in the U.S. and I can get a negotiator out there, because that call is coming in anywhere from 6 to 12 hours after the kidnapping. As soon as the bad guys can get a phone number to call, they're dialing for dollars. Mm-hmm. So there is no time for bureaucratic red tape, because a family member is going to get a ring, and if we don't get out there right away, pretty good chance that they're going to go to Western Union and send anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 cash that is untraceable and what they can't get back, because they've been intimidated to send it as quickly as possible. We have to stop that payment. Not because we don't want the hostage to come out, but because the hostage is not going to come out with that payment. You never pay the bad guys what they ask when they ask for it, because they're going to say, oh, you misunderstood. That is a down payment. And we have to stop that from happening. And the only way you can stop that from happening is to get a negotiator out there who can connect with that family member if they get the call. So the family member looks at them and says, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And in the hour that negotiator's been with them has won their complete trust.
Could you give an example, just to zoom in on that, on what a back and forth phone call dynamic is like?
We want $1 million, we kill your son. Mm-hmm. We want it now, or your son dies. And you might believe that if you had $1 million, that number one, it would save your son's life. Number two, it would get your son out. All I got to do is pay. Mm. You could pay. None of those things are going to happen.
True.
They're just not going to happen, because the bad guys go like, wow.
That was easy.
It was easy.
Yeah. So what do you say then?
Well, what you first have to establish is, do they actually have your son? Mm-hmm. There's something called Coyote Kidnappings. Kids are partying for spring break in Mexico. They get drunk out of their mind, and they lose their wallet in a bar. Waiter's smart enough to know, oh, this kid's passed out someplace. I got 12 hours to probably try to get $10,000 out of his family. I don't even have the kid. Go through the wallet, figure stuff out, call in a family. Hey, $10,000, we kill your son now. Mom tries to call the son. He don't answer the phone. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God, they do have him. No, they got his phone.
Yeah.
And a family member can be very easily horrified and terrified into making an immediate payment. Mm-hmm. So, and they don't even have the kid. So the first thing is, and I learned this from a drug dealer. In any negotiation, what's the legitimate question? In any negotiation, business or personal life. And drug dealer in Pittsburgh says to another drug dealer who's got his girlfriend, how do I even know she's alive? That's actually a fair question, which up to that point in time, I had never thought of. Nobody in the Bureau had. And the dynamic in the drug dealer and drug dealer kidnapping changed in the moment. Mm-hmm. The aggressor, kidnapper, immediately had lost control, and he didn't even know it. And he kind of goes like, well, I'll put her on the phone. And his voice has changed. Mm-hmm. He's no longer in charge. So I'm coaching family members like, look, we got to find out if they ask them a question that they have to say to themselves, oh, that's legit. And you say, how do I know you have my son? How do I know?
Mm-hmm. And is that to pattern interrupt them?
It's a pattern interrupt, and it feels deferential.
And how big is the frame control element of it too? Because I'm sure, because the whole thing is probably at some level, when you're dealing with these high-level negotiations, is to make their ego feel appeased, and that they're the boss, they're calling the shots, you're just here to help if I can, right? Like, that's a big part of the energy. Or what's your psychology being an elite negotiator around that?
Deference there's great power in deference in any negotiation. Mm-hmm. Some people feel you owe them deference.
What is deference for the audience that may not know?
To say, I'm here to serve you. You're in charge. You're in command. I'm lucky to be talking to you at all. And I have learned to say to people in business, it's a privilege to serve you. And in reality, that's a true statement. Because I'm living in the first world. I'm living in the center of entrepreneurism in the world. I got advantages that I got just for waking up here this morning that 90% of the planet doesn't even have. It's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to have the opportunity to serve somebody who's got a legitimate mission. Your mission might be selling boxes, but if you provide a quality product, you facilitate transportation and entrepreneurism for Amazon. And so if I can help you make more money to do your job better, in point of fact, if I would, philosophically, I could step back from any client, unless they're bad people, and we don't do business with shady people. People that we could tell right off the bat are looking to take advantage of others, we just don't do business with them.
Right.
And we figure that out very early on. There are a lot of people I refuse to do business with. You could be operating a legal entity in the United States, and I will not come near you if I don't like your ethics. But if I like your ethics, it, in point of fact, is a privilege to serve you. So that's deference. You're entitled to that. You know, you're going to pay me a lot of money. I should be grateful for that in your mind. And if you got a legitimate mission, and I admire you, and I admire my clients, and you're helping make the world a better place, I'm in fact grateful for it. So deference is this universal mystical power, because they're either saying in their head, "You do owe me deference," or they're flattered by it. Like you could push me around. You've got more power than me. You're bigger than me economically. You're more well-known than me. You could push me around. And instead, you treat me like a king. You're being deferential to me. You know, that inspires people on the inside. So across the board, human beings love deference. And if you feel deference from me, then there's going to come a point in time when I can confront you about a problem. I can ask you the hard question: How do I know my son's alive in a kidnapping? In a business deal, you're asking me for something I just can't do. My first question to you is going to be, how am I supposed to do that? How can I do that? How can I cut my price by 50% and remain your long-term supplier over the next 20 years that helps your business flourish? How can I cut my price by 50% and be someone that helped take you to the next level? That's a legitimate question. But the framing is, what's my perspective? I want us to have a 20-year relationship. I'm not a one-and-done person. Kidnappers, the two questions are, how do I know my son's alive? How do I know if I pay you, you're going to let him go? Now, as stupid as it sounds, those are fair questions. And the other side also feels like they're in charge, because people love to be asked what and how questions. Now, the real kicker is what and how questions are exhausting to answer. They trigger deep thinking, deep contemplative thinking. And in a kidnapping, I'm really looking to wear the other side out as soon as possible.
So you're going to fatigue them.
So they just want this to be over.
Yeah.
Which also means if the family reaches a negotiated monetary settlement with the child, with the bad guys, and if they don't, they are never coming out. There's no avoiding the fact that they are never coming out. There were some missionaries that were kidnapped in South America. It happened to be a missionary group that I also dealt with in the Philippines. And they made it abundantly clear to the kidnappers in South America that their missionary group would never pay a ransom. And the kidnappers believed them. And the victims were never released and never seen again and never found.
Wow.
That is the reality of international kidnapping. You make them believe you're not paying, they'll take your word for it, and you will never see that person again, ever.
So when you take those calls, you've seen situations where it worked out and didn't work out. What kind of emotional toll does that put on you on a personal level? Because I'm sure, for lack of a better expression, that fucks you up.
First of all, some of the insulation from it is your attitude towards what you're doing in the first place. And I always felt like it was a privilege.
Because you're serving a bigger cause. Yeah.
I was serving the American people. I was serving the hostages. I was serving the best interests of the United States. because we would also do these kidnappings in a way that would discourage them from taking Americans.
Right.
And by and large, in most countries where kidnapping exists, they learn that Americans are an expensive commodity.
Is it a universal approach that you take to these hostage negotiations? For example, if you're doing something in Cuba versus you're doing something in Iran versus you're doing something in Gaza or whatever it is, do you find that most human beings in their nature are pretty much the same, or it's the same philosophies, or do you feel like culture also affects it?
Cultural is an overlay to what we are wired as emotions. There's a hypothesis that I happen to believe in, and it's only a hypothesis because you can't scientifically prove it.
Right.
That all humans are born with the same basic emotions.
Mm.
And just because you're human, doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter your ethnicity, just because you come to Earth as a human being, period.
Yeah, it's the biological preset. Yeah.
Biological presets, which also means sociopaths are born with this.
True, yeah.
Sociopaths are created based on what happens to them after they were born, which means they were still born with the original wiring. The original wiring, as posed the first time around, was anger, surprise, disgust, happiness, and fear.
Mostly negative emotions.
For 80% negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, good observation right off the bat.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the list has been adjusted slightly. Paul Ekman was first put the hypothesis out there. I think he then switched from 5 to 6. Some people say the number's 10. Some people just, no, it's not happiness, it's joy. All right, stop with that nonsense.
Semantics. Yeah.
Semantics. But, academics, they got to criticize sometimes.
They need to stay relevant somehow.
Yeah, exactly. I can't agree. I got to find a way to argue. It's very bureaucratic thinking.
So for you with a lot of these hostage, I know I keep asking, but for you with a lot of these hostage situations, how long are these phone calls? Is it one-on-one? Do you have people listening in? Like, take the audience. For you, this was like bread and butter, but for the audience, we only see this shit in movies. So, like, paint the picture for us of, like, what these calls are actually like.
All right, so the hard part is first you got to think of every country as a market, which means
what was the toughest market for you?
Well, tough is a matter. So Colombia, the FARC, the Fuerzas Armadas Revolutionaries de Colombia, the FARC, and to a lesser degree the ELN. They were in the kidnapping business for so long, and they developed an infrastructure. Because the longer you're in a business, the more you build an infrastructure, and the longer you can hold a hostage. One of the last cases I worked out of there, where the guys were rescued, they'd been held for 6 years. Wow. That lasted for 6 years. And Ingrid Betancourt was one of the hostage released. She was a dual national French-Colombian. She'd been in for 7 years, and she'd actually borne a child by one of the kidnappers.
Oh my God!
So,
holy shit!
How long has the industry, the market, been in play? How much infrastructure have they built up? How much are they capable of building up? The FARC was in a paramilitary, revolutionary, insurgent, and they built up a very robust infrastructure and made a lot of money off kidnapping. So kidnapping in Colombia is going to last a while. It's going to be a few weeks to a few months to a few years, depending upon how the negotiations go, what the commodity is, how it's going. Haiti, typically, it's going to sound bizarre, only settles on a Friday or a Saturday.
Why is that?
Because the bad guys want to party on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And they're working class slobs just like me.
Yeah.
They come to work on a Monday after drinking too much over the weekend and not really ready to get anything done, so they're kind of wasting time. Monday's a throwaway day in most businesses.
Right.
I just got back. I don't feel like doing anything. I was late to work. They start getting a little more serious around Tuesday. Start getting even more serious about Wednesday. Wednesday, late in the day, they're thinking like, what are we going to do Saturday night? Where are we going to get the money? Remember last Saturday night? It was great. So along about Friday, they're getting hungry for that Saturday night party. And however they got you to, they're ready to settle for what they could get if you can make them believe that's all they could get. And so you spend the week prepping them for Saturday. You know, it's just like, you know, in the NBA, a 48-minute game, 44 minutes are getting ready for the last 4 minutes. Like, why are they substituting at half? Why is the second string all over the floor just before the half? They're resting the starters for the last 4 minutes of the game. You know, so, you know, you're orchestrating everything in Haiti to Friday or Saturday morning. Probably want, you know, they'll absolutely take whatever they can get on Saturday morning if you've exhausted them. I worked a bunch of kidnappings in Haiti. We'd find out a kidnapping is 2 weeks old because it was a missionary that got grabbed. And on Tuesday, they reached out to the missionary organization and said $50,000. And they're like, okay, we got 50, and they paid it, and they didn't let them go. But now these guys got money to last them through the weekend. So this ain't going down the following Friday if you paid them on Wednesday. They're good. You got to wait for them to burn up that money before they get serious again. And it's going to be at least another week. So if you catch it at the very beginning, you know, you're maneuvering them back and forth. You're getting a little bit of influence here and there. You're making them believe that you're working your tail off. Another good thing is they want you to be scared. Their weapon is fear. Just like in many negotiations, the weapon is leverage in business. So
you're creating an energy space of artificial subordination in a kind of way.
Yeah, and you know what do they most want? I would coach people. I'm coaching a family. I'm going to say, all right, so when the bad guys call, they're going to want you to be afraid. So I want you to be as afraid as you possibly can be, which snaps them right out of fear. Like I walk in, a family is, I mean, they're beside themselves. They can't think straight. I'm going to say a couple things to them that make them know I completely understand. What are those things? They're mad at me before I walk in the room. They blame me as a representative of the United States government for their son getting grabbed. So when I step in a room, I'm going to say, I know you're angry, and I know you're angry at me. Because they are. It's not my fault, but they are. So as I'm getting them ready, I'm going to say, all right, so the bad guy wants you to be afraid, and I want you to be as afraid as possible. And they'll go like, what? That's stupid. Which means I just snap them into a more rational state of being. It happens every time. Like they're just, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And I go, that's good. You're afraid. Keep it up. Give me more. Give me more fear. And they'll snap right out of it. Because I know how I know how to handle negative emotions.
And when you get on the phone with these guys, is there usually a first thing you're trying to establish right away?
Well, the bad guy's going to make a threat. And I've rehearsed them probably for, anywhere from 20 minutes to 3 hours.
3 hours?
Yeah, we're going to go back and forth because I'm going to get you used to, I'm going to kill your son. I'm going to pay right now. I'm going to kill your son. And you got to practice saying like, how do I know you have him? Now, you got to practice with somebody shouting at you a few times before you can pull that off. If I just say, ask this question this way, you're never going to pull it off the first time.
Because so much of it is tone, too.
It's tone, and you got to get used to getting screamed at.
And not be flustered or reactive.
Yeah, and not lose it.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually do that same exercise when we're teaching business negotiation.
I was going to say it probably works great for relationships, too.
Yeah, because, in a business deal, what's the other side going to do? Like, if you don't pay, I want you to understand that we got a lot of track record in this industry, and you're going to look very bad if you don't make a deal with us. I got a CEO of a healthcare company. He's going for a first meeting with a provider in the area. They're going to dinner. He thinks it's going to be casual, and the guy looks at him across the table before they get started. Says, I want you to know if you don't make a deal with us, we're the biggest player in this industry, and it's just not going to go good for you. That's the first thing out of his mouth. It's a threat. We prepped this CEO. He's been through our training. We did the attack. I need a car in 60 seconds so she dies. I put him through that. I'm going to kill your son if I don't get $1 million now. I put him through that, and we practice it back and forth. He's at a real dinner meeting, and the guy threatens him right off the bat. And he looks at him and he says, sounds like you're threatening me? Just the way we trained it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because a lot of people are you threatening me?
Mm-hmm.
Now the fight's on.
Yeah, and now you can lose your positioning in it. Yeah, yeah.
You lose but instead he just goes, sounds like you're threatening me? And he goes, no.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
And then he labeled him 3 times.
Yeah.
The guy becomes completely apologetic. They have a cordial dinner. This CEO has gone to the meeting with the CEO secretary who has served several other CEOs, and she says to him, you were the first guy he never intimidated.
Wow. Yeah.
So you got a tone of voice. Tone sets the tone. Derek Gaunt,
Yeah.
my head trainer, says that. Tone sets the tone.
How does this translate then in personal relationships? Like, is this type of stuff that you also, for example, can use in your intimate relationships?
Absolutely.
So, like, what are some things that you transfer that you think maybe transfer versus things that don't?
All right. So, well, it all transfers. Here's what makes things touchier. First of all, if you want to learn the skills with your significant other, tell them.
Yeah.
Say, hey, look, I read Never Split the Difference. This is about actually listening to people and showing them they matter.
Mm.
And it's about trust for the long term. So I want you to know that's my objective, and that's why I'm going to use the skills with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he or she has a problem with that, you got a red flag. If they don't want to have that relationship.
I feel like most people in general don't value communication heavily. I'm sure it frustrates the shit out of you too, being, you know, who you are in the world.
Well, the myth about it is that it's taken place.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, it's never even happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with significant others, the first part is you kind of negotiate using the skills by being upfront. Now, the second part, the harder part, significant others, family members. The longer you've been around anybody, the more likely you've inadvertently wounded them. You hurt them deeply and you don't know.
Mm.
And they know you don't know, so they're mad at you twice.
For doing it and for not knowing you were doing it.
And being oblivious to it, being the biggest idiot.
Yeah.
You know, they're, we have thank God we have a far more egalitarian, equal footing between men and women. You know, but last century, a man would make fun of a woman who said, well, if you don't know why I'm mad, I'm not telling you.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Well,
true.
That's actually pretty insightful.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you did it and you pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah. And then they're more mad at the fact, like, well, if you don't know, then I'm not going to tell you. Exactly.
Exactly. They're even madder at you for it.
Yeah.
And that's actually a legitimate anger, but the chances of it happening. So what's the premise? If you want to start out and you got riffs, the truth, you say to them like, look, I'm an idiot. The one thing I know for sure is that I've hurt you and I don't even know, which makes me an even bigger idiot. Now, if you're sincere about that, and they're going to read sincerity, you have to walk the talk.
Of course, yeah.
But you can open people up because that's what's in their head.
And being unafraid to criticize yourself first, like showing that level of like
awareness.
Yeah, awareness. Good word. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a level of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depending upon who you are, some people call it vulnerability. I call it honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Fight, flight, or make friends. Vulnerable, no, but I'll be honest. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Terminology.
Do you deal with a lot of friends and family, or maybe even in relationships prior, that people are like, "Oh no, Chris, you're doing that thing," you know, when you're just normally talking to them, and they go, "Oh shit, you're doing that manipulation thing, that FBI shit." Do you run into stuff like that?
You know, every now and then you do a little bit, and and then if you do, if they have a problem with it, then my issue is, all right, so why have you got the problem? Why have you got your guard up? So you got your guard up for one or two reasons. We're not aligned. Mm-hmm. We have different core values, is one. Mm-hmm. Or I'm not walking the talk. Mm-hmm. And if we're not aligned on core values, then this has got to come to an end because we're never going to be aligned. But I have to entertain the notion that I wasn't walking the talk to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to go back over and, you know, if I practiced empathy and then went back to ignoring her, then I'm not walking the talk.
Yeah.
And it's on me.
Yeah.
So those are, if your significant other doesn't like it, those are the only two reasons.
What are the top 2 or 3 things you think most people can do to improve their communication skills that you see in the world?
You could say, all right, look, before I offer you how I see this, let me make sure I got what you're saying straight.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not you didn't say you agreed. Mm-hmm. And you've always told them you have an opinion you want to share. But before you share that opinion, let me make sure I got what you said straight. Let me show you that I understood.
Repeat back what someone says.
Got to repeat it back what they mean.
Yeah.
Now you could be having a huge argument, and you could say, before I disagree, here's what I think your position is.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot disagree until they tell you that you got their position right.
Mm-hmm.
CEO of a company, women pick this up faster than men.
Why is that?
I'm not saying they're any better at it at the top end.
Yeah.
I've got no data that indicates that women at peak performance are any different. I do know they pick this up faster.
Why do you think that is?
I think because they're nurtured on soft skills earlier than men are.
Mm.
Little boy has a problem, gets into a fight, dad says, stand up for yourself.
Toughen up. Yeah.
Toughen up. You know, if he beats you up, go back and
Punch him.
Yeah. You know, at least give him a bloody nose. You don't got to win, but you got to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Little girl gets into a fight. Maybe she beats up a little boy. Older sister, mom, aunt is like, you ain't always going to be able to beat him up.
Yeah.
You're going to have to learn soft skills. You're going to have to learn how to get your way because you can't always win physically. And that day is coming.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think they get nurtured on soft skills sooner.
Mm.
Anyway, the female CEO, she's got 2 executives, her top 2 executives. She loves them both. She needs them both, and they're at each other's throat.
Mm-hmm.
So she brings them into the office, and she said, we're going to settle this. You can't give your point of view until you summarize where he's coming from back to him, and he says to you, that's right, because that's right means that you've got it. Once you get a that's right out of him, you are free to say whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
What that does simultaneously, it begins to draw people together.
That's right. It builds a trust.
Because me taking the time to understand you also begins to enlighten me as I articulate it.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you feel like maybe I'm at least willing to hear you out.
Mm-hmm.
So she does this. She's on the brink of losing them both. She brings them both in, and they work everything out. And they go back to work, and everything is put back on track.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't let somebody know you understand by saying I understand. I don't want to tell you understood. You're being lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Lay out what you think you understand.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's see how close you are.
Yeah, it's funny. I was having a discussion with a friend about this. I used to think in relationships, for example, in life, business, intimate relationships, that communication was number one. But I've actually since changed my scope to realize comprehension is number one. Because no matter how fluent you are or good you are at trying to fix a problem in a relationship or business or whatever, and you can articulate it super well, if the other person is unresponsive, avoidant, not mutually willing, like if it's not a mutual thing, if there's not that mutual comprehension, falls on deaf ears, right? No matter how fluent I am in French, if I speak it to you and you don't speak that language, falls on deaf ears.
Right.
And the challenge is that most people, I think, in relationships, in many a context, I think that's where they sort of die on the hill on.
Yeah, it's very well said. Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about for you in terms of the toughest stuff to deal with? Because you dealt with a lot of crazy shit, a lot of high stakes emotional shit. I'm curious, how did you turn that off and then just go back to your normal life? Was that something you just got used to? Did that come with like some collateral damage that maybe you don't feel comfortable sharing? Like
No, I think
on a human level, I'm curious.
No, it weighed on me over the years. A couple things snapped me out of it a little bit. Whatever you go through, you didn't go through half what the family went through.
Mm.
You didn't go through 10% of what they went through.
Mm-hmm.
And to recognize that at some point in time, which takes a while, then you go like, what am I being a crybaby about? I didn't lose my brother, my father, my son. I failed in my job. How does that compare to what they went through? That realization is hard to come to, but it's unavoidable. And then a point of fact, you can only do it for so long. And I did it for about, I was full-time up to my eyeballs in it for the last 7 years of my career. And I didn't think I was burned out. And I got out, I worked on a master's degree. I don't know if you remember that movie, Rodney Dangerfield, Back to School from last century. I was Rodney Dangerfield. I went back to school as an old guy.
Yeah. What did you study?
I went to Harvard Kennedy School of Government, got a master's in public administration.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was a good way to decompress. And when I got there, when I got out of what I've been doing for 7 years, I was like, whew, okay.
Yeah, a nice breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I didn't realize it.
I have another question. As it relates to some of the calls that you've had over the years, do you remember any that you could recollect or walk us through? Like not on a high level perspective, but in terms of like a back and forth on the phone calls?
With the bad guys?
Yeah.
Chase Manhattan Bank robbery with hostages in Brooklyn.
What happened?
I'm the second negotiator on the phone. First PD negotiator, Joe, great negotiator, Joe Pirano. I don't even know if Joe's still around. Joe did a great job of stabilizing the situation with a highly manipulative bank robber. I've often made the comparison that he was the great CEO negotiator. You sit down and talk to a CEO who's got any sense, he's going to pretend like he has no power. He's going to say, look, if I screw up this deal, my board's going to fire me.
That's right.
I'd love to do the deal with you, but I got a board I'm answerable to. So anything that we talk about is contingent on my board's approval. This bad guy in the bank was saying, like, look, these guys I'm in here with are dangerous. I'm scared of them. If I do the wrong thing, they're going to kill me.
Yeah.
He was in there he told us he was in there with 7 other guys. He was in there with 1 other guy.
So he made it sound like he was like a weak member of the bigger group that was robbing it or whatever.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow.
And so then in the hours that Joe was on the phone, Lieutenant Hugh McGowan he's got this great gut instinct. McGowan understood hostage negotiation. He was in charge of NYPD, and McGowan was great. Hugh is since deceased. I learned so much from him. He knew that we were being manipulated, and he knew that the critical thing was this bad guy was constantly hanging up the phone on us abruptly. So when he said, all right, we're going to switch from Joe to Chris. Chris, you're going to get on the phone, and this is what you're going to do. Number 1, you end every call. Now, the real control in any negotiation is how it ends. Because how each interaction ends sets up the very next interaction. And most people only worry about how it starts. But it's it's a little bit like when your good night's sleep started yesterday afternoon.
Right.
What did you have for lunch?
Last night I didn't have the best night's sleep.
Yeah. How you feel this morning started yesterday afternoon.
Fair.
How your meeting starts is critical, is painted by how the last one ended.
Yeah, because that lays down the tracks, the direction, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
And the emotional feelings. So Hugh puts me on the phone. He says, in order for us to regain control of this negotiation, we have to end every call. So no matter what you do, when he tries to put you on hold, when he says you have to keep him on the phone for just a few more seconds, and then you end the call. And we slowly start taking control from this really manipulative guy who doesn't know how we're doing it to him. Because he's not focused on how things end. We ended up applying this in a number of other critical negotiations, control the ending. And in business, the last impression is the lasting impression. Never make a threat and walk away. If you're getting ready to walk away, tell them why you were talking to him in the first place. What was your optimism from the beginning? how you opened needs to be how you closed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Omar, I want to sit down with you. You know, my plan is for us to have a long-term relationship. I know we've had some problems, but I'd love to work them out so that I can be your provider for the next 20 years. And if we have this discussion and we get nowhere, most business people will say, well, I will remind you that we have a contract. Just keep that in the back of your mind for our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
What did you just do? You threatened them.
Mm-hmm. And you've anchored it, yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to penalize you.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, I need to say, look, I know we didn't get anywhere today, but the reason we sat down here in the first place is because I want to be your provider for the next 20 years. I want us to be able to look back at a 20-year relationship of productivity where both companies were better off. Mm-hmm. So let's see you Tuesday at 2. And that was the last impression. I controlled the end.
Mm-hmm.
I painted the picture, which is going to set up the next meeting, and that's what's going to resonate in your brain because that's how humans are wired.
Mm.
Hugh taught me that at the Chase Manhattan Bank. So we did a number of things. Guy wouldn't tell us his name. Why would you keep in a personal relationship, why would you not tell me your name? Because that allows me to connect with you.
Mm. So he doesn't want to build that personal touch. Yeah.
Doesn't want to build that personal touch. A number of years later, I'm in Washington, D.C. I got a boat in D.C. We get pulled over by Harbor Patrol. They're doing a routine check. Harbor Patrol on the boat is a different set of search rules. They could search my boat. They don't need a warrant. I'm an FBI agent. I got guns on my boat. They pull me over, and I show the guy my ID because I want him to know if he decides to search a boat, he's going to find guns.
Mm-hmm.
And and the guy's rolling his eyes. Fed. Okay, right. And already he's not liking me at all.
Yeah.
And I go, I'm Chris. And he goes, I'm Lieutenant Williams. And I go, what's your first name? And he goes, Lieutenant.
Yeah.
He is not allowing me to connect.
Right.
And so the first bad guy at Chase wouldn't give us his first name the whole time. Even when we found out for sure who he was, he still wouldn't admit who it was.
Yeah.
I end up bracing him about his first name. He kind of panics. He gets off the phone. To this day, I still don't know why he handed the phone off to the next guy.
Uh-huh.
Next guy, Bobby, had been lured into this. He didn't think they were going to rob the bank. He thought they were going to rob the cash machine, a nonviolent crime, and now he's in the middle of a bank robbery with hostages surrounded by the 7th largest standing army in the world. NYPD has been described as the 7th largest standing army on Earth.
Holy shit. How do these people think they're going to get away? Like, what's their plan?
Well, they
ever?
thought they were going to get away before we got there.
Yeah, but by that time it's too late.
And so we were there too soon, and our manipulative guy still figured he was so smart he was going to figure a way out. He actually did some pretty clever stuff. What he ended up doing, I think it actually inspired a movie later on down the line.
Inside Man?
Not Inside Man, but there's this Bad Boys. Who are the two actors in Bad Boys?
Martin Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence. Martin Lawrence does this movie where he was a bank robber, and
I know the exact movie you're talking about. I love that movie. Not Heist. Top Heist or Diamond Heist. I know what you're talking about. Where
he
hides
diamond.
it.
Yeah.
He hides it and then he comes back.
He wants to come back.
Based on a true story, yeah.
Yeah, well, at the Chase Bank, the basement of the bank was undergoing construction.
Mm-hmm.
So our bad guy goes, the lead bad guy who manipulated everybody, he goes and he hides a bunch of money, he really squirrels it away in the walls.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost impossible to find. And then he takes some of the other money and he burns it up in the middle of the floor. And his plan is, I got to count for the missing money. Oh, he must have burned it all up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's planning whenever he gets away from law, if he gets away or he gets out on bail, because he's he hasn't killed anybody, so there's a pretty good chance he's going to make bond before trial. He can go back to the bank, get the money out of the wall, and who knows, maybe go to Costa Rica. Who knows what he's going to do?
Yeah.
But he's down hiding money in the wall. And then when Martin Lawrence did that movie a number of years later, I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they got that idea from there.
Now, what about, I want to ask, why did you name the book Never Split the Difference?
Tall Roz.
Mm.
Among Tall's genius. Like, we had another working title that we sold the book proposal to HarperCollins under a working title of Killer Negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
we've got the book deal, and the publisher has expressed reservations about the guy that has written the proposal, and they know that Tall's lurking. He's a possibility, and they're gonna hold back the proposal based on our writer. And I'm like, all right, so what they're putting on the table, if we change writers, Tall's not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
A professional is expensive, an amateur costs a fortune.
Amen.
Tall's worth every dime.
Yeah, I've learned that lesson too in business. Yeah,
every dime. So we get started on the book. Tall's a genius, in-depth researcher, asks insightful questions, hits you with some really hard, good questions. When we first get started, he's like, all right, Killer Deals is not going to be the title of the book. Somewhere in this process, when I've absorbed enough of your stuff and I really understand it, I'm going to tell you what the title is. And I'm like, all right, I know you know what you're doing. You got a track record. I've been dying to work with you. You are the guy. And so we're about 2/3 the way through the process, and he goes, I've listened to you and your son. I've watched your videos. The name of the book is Never Split the Difference. That's the essence of what you're talking about. And I'm like, done. I love it. It's perfect.
In a negotiation context, what does it mean to you? Never split the difference.
Splitting the difference is always lose-lose. And you do not retain long-term relationships with a lose-lose mentality. It eats at human beings, no matter how well-intentioned it is. It's always lose-lose.
So you're saying it's always better to be win-win. I think there's an expression you have where you say, no deal is better than a bad deal.
Yeah, and the only reason why I'm leery of the term win-win is it's often weaponized against us.
Sure.
If in the first part of the conversation, the guy says, hey, look, I want you to know I want a win-win deal.
I actually learned that from you, one of your videos early on.
Yeah.
In business, if someone ever says, hey, we want to make a win-win deal, you go, oh, shit, he's trying to look fair so he can get a bigger edge of the stick. I actually learned that from you in business.
Trying to pick my pocket.
Another one I learned from you, too, that I loved was the fairness thing.
The F word.
Yeah. So you negotiate, you say the whole thing, and if you're worried about what they're going to say, be like, sound fair?
Right.
How does that say? Because then it's not like, do we got a deal? It's not implying that something is being transferred or something is being lost. It's, hey, does this sound fair and equal to you? And
if I say no, you're implying I'm unfair.
Right.
And that's the emotional leverage shift in that, if you don't see it, is huge.
Yeah.
And so and then the people that manipulate, they looking around for manipulative techniques, and suddenly they say, oh, fair.
Mm-hmm.
I can get my way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a heck of an emotional level.
What are some other one-liners or concepts that you'd share with people or recommend sharing with people?
Somebody's going for a win-win deal. Not necessarily a one-liner, but if somebody you're talking to is overly focused on one aspect, they are shopping you against somebody else. If you don't know who the fool in the game is,
you're the fool.
It's you.
Can you explain that or give an example?
Somebody calls in, they just want price.
Mm-hmm.
They're comparing your price to somebody else. Somebody calls in and they want an RFP outlining how you're going to do something.
Mm-hmm.
We get that all the time. They're doing due diligence. If you, by definition, are the best in class, and in point of fact, I will shamelessly say our methodology is best in class, then that makes you due diligence, because they're still going to have a training provider they've worked with for 20 years. They're hoping they could be as good as a Black Swan Group. So they'll come to us and they'll say, how can we hire you unless we know how you're going to do this? So we need you to lay out a full proposal on how you're going to teach us. They know what we know we're doing. They're going to take that proposal. They're going to take it to their favor, and they're going to say, "Here, this is a structure." So, how do I diagnose that?
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, "Why us?" And they'll come back with, "Well, that's up to you to show me. That's why I want a proposal."
Mm-hmm.
I'm the fool in the game. If they shoot back and I go, "You guys are best in class. There's nobody that touches you. We have several executives internally that have read your book. They're making deals using your methodology they couldn't make before. They're raving about you."
Mm-hmm.
The why question punches an emotional button. And if I use it, it makes you defensive every time.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you wear that shirt? You're going to ask yourself, what's wrong with my shirt?
Mm-hmm.
Why me? Now you're defending me. And so instead of diminishing rapport between the two of us, when you defend me, you're bonding with me and you're being very honest with me because it feels like a correction. And people correct with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to get the truth out of you as quickly as possible, and I need you to not regret telling me. And so to create an emotional moment where you're defending me, you will tell me the truth if it's there, and you will not regret telling me. Those are two critical issues about getting the truth out of somebody. How do I get it, and how do they not regret telling me? Mm-hmm. And as a prompt in that very narrow circumstance, you'll tell me the truth if there's a reason. If you're shopping, you say, "Oh, that's up to you." And then I'll simply, on a constant and regular basis, my next response to you will be, "Feels like you guys are still shopping around for the right fit." And at that point in time, they'll tell me,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, we are. You know, we got a company we've been doing business with for a long time. We've heard great things about you. And, you know, we got a contract for 3 years with this trainer. And we signed it last year. They're a friend of our CFO. Had a personal relationship. And we got a binding contract for 3 years." That was the situation with a company that we were talking to.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that our stuff was better, but they had a binding contract for training with another company that had 2 years to run.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't want to break the contract. So they just, give us your book. I'll have our guy teach it.
How do you deal with the sales objection of let me think about it, or I got to think about it? Talk to my spouse.
First of all, I haven't done proof of life to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And so then my answer is going to be to you like, if the proof of life probably wasn't there to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a deal, and is there a deal with us?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say something like, "It sounds like this is just not going to fit for you right now."
So you overly state the no before.
Yeah.
And the rationale being to get them to be like, no, well, I would do it. You're trying to incite, essentially, the reciprocity?
Well, I need to know what the obstacles are.
Right.
And so it's going to be fit. You could be shopping me. You could be doing due diligence. There's a lot of stuff that could be going on here.
Right.
And I need to surface what they are, because then again, the last impression is the last impression. What I want to do is finish by saying, like, "Look, I don't think there's a fit right now, but I want you to know that when the time comes, we want to be the company that contributed to your success."
Yeah.
I would love for today to be the moment that 20 years from now we look back on and say, this is when we made the decision to work together,
mm-hmm.
and we prospered.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that day is there yet, and I want you to know when it is. We're going to be here when you're ready to make a mutual commitment. We want to start a 20-year relationship.
And so the premise there is you show, like, you're fearless about the no, essentially.
Right.
Like, if they're like, "Oh, I don't know," I'll be like, "Well, you know what? Since you don't know, let's just call it a no. And if the time is right, X, Y, Z." You're not saying let's just call it a no, but you're showing that it's okay to go there, for example.
Yeah.
I've done that before where I've actually learned a lot of your stuff, and I've tried some of my own, spins on it, so to speak. I know one time we had a client, it was like a $50,000 thing. And client goes, "Well, I just want to think about it. Is it okay if I give you a call next week?" And I said, yeah, that worked. That's totally cool. I said, but, respectfully, I can't imagine you just randomly call me next Wednesday and say, hey, Omar, I'm ready to wire you 50 grand, And he started laughing, and he goes, yeah. He goes, that's it's a good point. And I go, well, yeah, man, look, like if we could just talk it out heart to heart, if we don't do the deal, no problem, but definitely want to save your time, our time, and if we do this, get you the results sooner, And by framing it that way, it was weird. It was almost like by calling out the elephant in the room,
yes,
you've now removed all the bullshit formality, and it's like, okay, we put our weapons down, and it's like, look, saying that takes balls too, because at first I was
it's
like,
scary.
Shit. Yeah, it's a little scary to say that. But I told him, but then tone comes into play, because I didn't do it like an asshole. I can't imagine you're gonna.
Yeah.
So I said it playfully, so then you get him to laugh and drop their guard. And he goes, yeah, well, look, the truth is, boom.
Yeah.
And we ended up closing the deal that day.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I remember that, and it was, part of your kind of your philosophy of essentially the way I kind of think about it is like accept and redirect, right? So you accept their frame, you accept their metaphor, but then you guide it back to wherever you want to go, making sure that it's aligned. Because most people are filtering for the bullshit that they're encountering in other businesses, other people who are trying to sell them on stuff, other people that are trying to manipulate them. So they have guards up. And so instead of, for example, criticizing their guards, you validate them. So if they say, for example, something to the effect of like, I've called a bunch of other companies. I've been burned by a bunch of different agencies before, and be like, I totally hear you. In fact, that happened to me. That's why I actually started the business, right? As opposed to, well, we're different. I swear we're different.
Right.
We'll do it at a
Pitch
different
your value proposition.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like a line, and then from there come to it together. And I think that's where most people get stuck or get their ego attached to it.
Yeah, agreed. Or they're afraid. And the other thing I loved about your response is, at that moment of indecision, you're either being played or he's undecided.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you got to diagnose which one it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're being played, he's going to move on. If he's undecided, then what you bring him back to is the fact that you have a solution that's going to bring results as soon as you kick the solution into gear,
mm-hmm.
which is then very gently and very respectfully
mm-hmm.
confronting him with the cost of indecision.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds him, if he's talking to you legitimately, he's got a problem that's costing him every day he doesn't begin to address the solution.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you said, basically, we make a deal and start getting results as soon as possible, you reminded him what's going to happen in the interim.
That's right. And that it's actually to his benefit to not wait.
Right.
Because like him delaying doing it is him delaying his own results.
Yes.
So now that is the frame in his mind. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I want it to work sooner, not later. If we know we're going to do this anyways, I'd just rather get you the results sooner. What's he going to say? No, I'd rather get it later?
Yeah, right. You can't say
know what
that.
I mean?
It triggers the cost of indecision, the cost of doing nothing.
Yes.
Which is why, because there is a cost there. And the day-to-day cost is typically not huge, but the week-by-week cost is.
Mm.
And so you get them out of day-to-day and thinking about, all right, so a month from now, where are you going to be if you don't address this?
Mm-hmm.
That's when you find out whether or not that your diagnosis, you're throwing something out, you did that respectfully,
mm-hmm.
you're very cautious about your tone of voice, a little playful. Playfulness is a superpower.
Mm-hmm.
You get the guy to drop his guard
mm-hmm.
and allowed him to confront the reality of the cost of inaction.
Mm-hmm. And then also you sandwich it with like, totally okay if we don't do the deal.
Yeah.
Like I just, totally okay if we're not going to do the deal, no problem. But I can't imagine you just calling next week and going, hey, Omar, I thought about it and I'm ready to go,
Yeah.
And the fact that I said it that playfully, he actually laughed. So it totally disarmed him. He told me later he started using that. So
Oh, yeah.
no,
Nice.
that stuff's been really helpful.
Good guy.
I wanted to ask before we wrap up here a couple quick questions on a business context. I know obviously at the Black Swan Group, you guys help executives and business leaders from all over the world, various industries,
Right.
level up. What are some things that you can recommend or teach people in business on a practical level that you think most people are really missing from in their communication? I'm sure there's a lot of nuance to it,
Right.
but overall, what are the biggest themes you see at the highest level of business that even big CEOs fuck up on or aren't that strong on, or people would be surprised to realize they're not that good at?
Well, the first, the comprehension, empathy is comprehension plus feeding the information back.
Mm.
So I'm a big fan of Stephen Kotler. Stephen's a friend, brilliant thinker, and he wrote one book, Empathy is about the transmission of information.
Empathy is about the transmission of information. Okay.
So you got your comprehension, you have to transmit it back. Just to make sure you got it right. And then be willing to be corrected. Like some people are horrified of being corrected. Being corrected is actually a superpower.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you to admit stuff to me in a correction that you would never tell me directly. So the emphasis is not on being articulate first, which is one of the big problems with most of the business schools. What's your value proposition? What's your elevator pitch? You know, busy CEOs are so sick of pitches that business schools have said, okay, you got him trapped in an elevator for 30 seconds. How do you get his attention in 30 seconds? Well, why are they so hard to pin down? Because they're tired of, number one, your pitch, or you not listening to their answers. And salespeople are taught, okay, you're going to ask a great question. Gather information by asking questions. Now, your prospect is going to be at one of three places. So here are the three places they're going to be in. And you got a solution for each place. So you say to the CEO, what's the biggest challenge you face? And the CEO answers you, and you go like, I got an answer for that. And what the CEO says to themselves was, that answer was too quick.
Bingo, yep.
You're not listening to me. Now, even if your answer is accurate, you just showed the CEO you didn't listen to them. So the point in time comes when you're listening to them and comprehending is critical, you've now demonstrated that you don't do that. And so CEOs are sick of people not listening to what they have to say, which is why CEOs are famous for interrupting the pitch, peppering people with questions, because they're sick to death of not being heard. And if you're not, if you're not going to listen to me, why should I talk to you?
That's right.
If you've demonstrated to me that me talking is a waste of my time, cool. I'll get the message. I ain't going to talk to you. And so when business schools trying to get people to do the elevator pitch, I'm like, that's not the problem. The problem is you're not teaching people to show they comprehend what the CEO has. And a busy CEO does not have time for some bozo who's pitching and not listening.
And it's true even from an executive staff perspective or even friends. Like, think about how many people get advice from their friends, and it's like they say a problem, and then as soon as you state the problem, someone just gives you some generic advice right away. They don't ask clarifying questions. They don't ask for nuance. They don't ask what you want. They don't ask what you're after. They just give you knee-jerk reactions.
Here's what I did.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's how I handle this.
Exactly.
You know,
why don't you do this?
That's how I handle it.
Yeah. Do you think that most people's quality of communication can be enhanced? You know, is it like a nurture versus nature thing? Obviously, people can grow it, but what advice do you have for people to improve their communication skills aside from reading, aside from training with you guys? Maybe like what else can people do to really grow their skill sets as a communicator and negotiator in life and business?
You know, and it's learnable for everybody. Now, how coachable are you? How open are you to learning? A lot of people think that experience is the best teacher, so it's going to be their only teacher.
Trial and error.
Or so have they seen somebody do it. If they haven't seen somebody do it, they won't do it. They won't try something new. So the best, get out of your comfort zone. Work in conversations that are innocuous. Hearing somebody out. Like just a couple of times, play with hearing people out. People are going to say something to you that's going to trigger real desire to either correct them or share them. It's the hijacking moment, and it's level 2 listening. Instead of focusing on my own internal dialogue the whole time you're talking, while I'm waiting to talk, I listen to you long enough to hijack, which is to correct or to say, yeah, same thing happened to me. What we were just talking about. Here's how I fix that. If you can resist past that moment to keep the other side talking, that is the most difficult step. That hijack moment is the hardest one to get through. If you can get through the rest of them come much easier. That is the moment. And here's what happened to me, or I had a similar experience. That's one of the hardest moments to resist. Like, I have trouble resisting it. I know it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's how hard it is to resist. I know it's bad,
Mm-hmm.
and I have trouble fighting it off. If you can train yourself to fight it off, then you're on your way to being a great comprehender,
Mm-hmm.
and then a negotiator after that.
What about the emotional management part? What advice do you have for people on how to better manage their emotions and temperaments in life and business?
So the three magic mindsets to overcome the survival wiring of negativity are curiosity, playfulness, and gratitude.
I love that. I've never heard that before.
And you got to think of them as hygiene.
Curiosity, playfulness, and gratitude.
Gratitude, because they also bring you into the moment. They put you in a positive frame of mind.
That's right.
Your gratitude, if you're grateful, you're in the moment.
That's right.
If you're playful, you're in the moment.
That's right.
If you're curious, you're in the moment. Now, if you're in the moment, you comprehend what's actually going on. And you got to think of it as hygiene.
Like mental hygiene.
It's mental hygiene. Did you brush your teeth this morning? Well, wait a minute. Didn't you do that yesterday? You still got to do it this morning?
Yeah.
As stupid as that sounds, a gratitude exercise first thing in the morning is mental hygiene.
I believe it.
And so then if playfulness can be harder, but if you make it an intention to be playful as much as possible, playfulness will snap you back into a positive frame of mind where you're in the moment.
Where they say you don't stop having fun because you get old because you stop having fun.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Well said. Or do you to be mature? Do I, stop being such a clown? I got to be a grown up.
An adult. Yeah.
I got to be an adult.
Fuck that shit.
Yeah, don't go down that. I mean, the more you can be playful, and
big kidding shit.
And like my team, sometimes I know they think I'm schizophrenic because I'll be in the middle of being mad about something.
Right.
Like one of my favorite lines, Heath Ledger's Joker in the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
He's dressed in a nurse's outfit, and he's sitting next to Two-Face in the hospital. And Two-Face says, "Was this your plan?" And he goes, "Do I look like a guy with a plan?" And on my way over to this interview, I changed everything this morning. Mm-hmm. And my director of operations, I called her, and she's understandably mad at me. And in the middle of it, I go like, "Do I seem like a guy with a plan?"
Yeah.
And they know at certain points in time, like when we're really tense and upset, I'm going to say something just stupidly ridiculous, to try to snap everybody out of it.
Yeah.
And so playfulness will help.
Pattern interrupt, absolutely. So before we wrap up, Chris, and we're super grateful for your time, I wanted to ask a quick question, and that is for men or women watching and listening. People who either haven't checked out your book or want to check out your book or learn more about the Black Swan Group. We'll put all the links in the description below. But a question I have for you before we wrap up with this game is for men and women around the world watching this interview right now or listening to this interview who are maybe trying to make their life work, right? A lot of the people that watch the show are inspired to make their dreams a reality. Maybe they're trying to figure out how to get unstuck, how to get clear on their vision, where they want to go. You've both done it in your own life and consulted people at the highest level in life and business. What advice would you have for people listening or watching this that want to make their life work? They maybe feel stuck, want to get a sense of clarity, a sense of direction. They know they want to do big epic shit, but for whatever reason, they just can't find that next thing or that momentum. What would your best advice be?
Well, you probably feel overwhelmed in the moment, and you're looking for answers now, and that's a way to stay stuck. So, I got to pay the rent now. I got to make my car payment now. I got to do this now. That will hold you hostage. If you can give yourself the opportunity to just give me a week to get better. Let me play with this for a week.
Mm-hmm.
If you can give yourself that much space, you are on your way to getting it.
What about the clarity part of it when you want to know what it is?
Like where your goals are?
Yeah, what you want. Yeah, or you're trying to find your thing. Maybe
there's a lot of advice out there to set goals and to have direction and have an objective. And my philosophy is that's limiting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a phrase: "Never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better."
I like that.
So
like that.
you can have a general direction that you want to go, but that has a tendency to put you blinders. You get tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are adjacent opportunities that could be amazing.
Yeah.
And you're going to go right by them because I got this goal. I got my eyes on a prize. And this looks so great. But something over here was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard to sort of widen your gaze. You know, another thing that I actually I'm asking myself a lot is like, what's the serendipity in today?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll do my gratitude thing in the morning, and then I need to really focus. Like if I let today, and I have a very structured day.
Mm-hmm.
I got a calendar that I live by. But if I look for the serendipity of today, whatever you believe in the universe, whatever it is, every day has got a serendipitous moment in it,
Mm-hmm.
which then may lead you in a completely different direction that you didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
A new relationship, a new colleague, a new business partner, an appreciation, a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not on your radar. But every day, somewhere, there's a moment of serendipity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I missed him yesterday, all right, tomorrow's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I get another shot tomorrow.
Yeah.
I get to the end of the day, and I'm like, Jesus, I don't know where this day went. Clearly, I missed the serendipity of the day. You know what? Let me get a good night's sleep and just start. I get Groundhog Day coming at me. I get to do it again tomorrow.
No, I love that philosophy. I try to live by it too, where they say, I think Einstein says it best. He said there's two ways to live your life. One is if everything is a miracle. The other is if nothing is a miracle.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like so many people walk by the opportunities. You bump into people. I mean, how many times you bump into someone in an elevator or a door opens and that ends up being somebody you work with or a significant other or a potential client or whatever it is. But if you weren't open to the magic of it, you could sit there, to your point, and be,
Go right past.
committed to the blinders of like, oh, this is my plan. I got to stick to the plan, missing out on the magic all around you. And then, praying to God or crying like, how come these things aren't happening when they're right there, but you're not grabbing them because you're so, tunnel focused on what you think.
God says, like, I sent it. You weren't paying attention. What do you want from me?
That's right. Amen, my friend. So, okay, before we wrap up, Chris, we play a game with every guest at the end of every episode. The game is called First Things First.
Okay.
So the way the game works is I'm going to rifle off a quick word or phrase, and then you'll simply tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind, like a word relation game.
Right.
Make sense?
Right.
The only rule is
everything I say is just monkey.
yeah. The only rule is
What's
that
my
the only
obsession?
rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice.
Ooh, okay.
So that's
Right.
the one kicker.
Okay, cool.
You ready?
Yeah,
So the first word or phrase that comes to mind. Ready?
yeah.
Money.
Happiness.
The key to being the #1 FBI hostage negotiator in the world.
Fearlessness.
Why your book sold 5 million copies.
People want to collaborate.
The hardest thing for you to learn being a hostage negotiator.
Handling it when things go bad.
The toughest day in business.
Oh, well. Ain't nothing there because it doesn't stack up to the toughest days as a hostage negotiator.
The toughest day as a hostage negotiator.
When somebody died, when a family member was counting on me to get them out.
The common denominator between every hostage negotiation scenario that worked out in your favor.
Serendipity. Universe is cutting me a break.
The biggest limiting belief you had to overcome to be where you're at today.
Wow. I know there's something there. What the biggest one is?
The biggest limiting belief you had to get over to get to where you're at today.
Yeah, I still get worried about things going bad, and they never go bad the way that you can imagine they would, ever. So in business, like in hostage negotiation, a little bit different. But in business, limiting. Some I get bound up in my own stuff. In point of fact, we're truly free. Just accepting that is hard.
Yeah. Persuasion.
Influence,
Laughter.
fun,
Comedy in the sense of persuasion.
appropriate.
Always?
Yeah,
Why?
because you're 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind, and it's contagious.
Is that true, really?
Yeah. Sean Acker, Harvard psychologist, TED Talk. I think The Happy Secret to Better Work. I think it's one of the funniest TED Talks you'll ever hear. Can't remember, 14-ish minutes. Highly entertaining, and makes the case, and he throws that stat out. He's my source. He says you're 31% smarter in a positive frame of mind. Salespeople are 37% more effective. Positive frame of mind. That's my source. You can like it or not.
Best advice you'd give to that young Chris Voss who was looking for answers early in his career, being on this side of the fence, knowing
Just
what you know.
be a little nicer. Just a little nicer. You're on the right track. Stick to your values. Stick to what you believe in, the direction you want to go, the approach, the problems you want to solve. You're on track. Just be a little bit nicer.
Best advice for people to master emotional management.
Be willing to unplug. Get a good night's sleep.
Gratitude.
Essential.
Fear.
Goes with the territory.
Your future.
Amazing.
And then the last one, you ready?
Yeah.
When Chris Voss is dead, gone, and nothing but a pile of dust, what do you hope your life and your mission was all about?
Helping people have better lives.
Oh, man. Anything else you want to share with the audience?
If this appeals to you, financial prosperity is a secondary benefit. The people that we coach and train do this, they're having the best time. And when they get into it, they're making more money than they were making before. But the real benefit is life is just that much more enjoyable. Justice Palmar, we gave him an award for Global Negotiator, phenomenally successful business person. He says to me, I didn't realize I saw the world in black and white, now I'm seeing it in color.
Wow.
Just think about that difference. Maybe the world's more colorful than you realize.
My man, Chris, never split the difference. Thank you so much, brother.
My pleasure.
It's been an honor having you on the show. And for you guys watching at home, make sure to follow Chris and check out the Black Swan Group in the description down below. We'll plug links. Until then, live strong, live with passion, and go get yourself a copy of Never Split the Difference if you haven't already. Thanks for tuning in.